Hi everybody, welcome to the video. Today we're going to be going over boom bap drums mixing or drum mixing in general. So we're going to get right into it. Again, these tips and everything that I'm going to give you can be applied to any drums. We'll see here all the samples are unmixed as they are, so we can start fresh, and we're going to be working up to what you saw in the beginning. This is what it sounds like now. Perfect. There we go. So to begin, one thing I will say is we'll want to use high quality samples just from the get-go. You want to use good sounds that don't have a lot of other elements or dynamics in them that are going to muddy up your mix. Of course, we'll clean those up afterwards with EQ and everything anyways, though the best starting ground is the best sound. So don't forget that. Yeah, so as you can see here, again, the melody and everything is unmixed for the most part. Again, we're just focusing on the drums today. You will see the bass is in mono, and I shaved off everything below 30 hertz. You're never going to hear that, and it also just cleans up some headroom for us. And the melody, I just boosted the highs a little bit and dipped the mids slightly. I just thought it sounded better. Though, yeah, to begin, we're just going to start with EQing all the samples. Again, we can see here they are unmixed, no EQ, anything like that. We're starting fresh. So to begin, we're just gonna start with EQing them all. So as you can see here, I'm shaving off some of the EQ. The reason, or some of the low end with the EQ. The reason being is typically everything like 40 and below on a kick is really low. You're not really going to hear it, and it's going to interfere with the bass. So we just remove that to create some headroom and also just shape the kick a bit better. Also raise the high end a bit, as you can see there, to just give the kick a little more body, a little more top end. Going to speed through the EQ process here because it does take a bit. Though I want you guys to pay attention here in regards to how I'm EQing, because you'll notice I A/B test as I go. You'll see this as a repetitive thing throughout the whole video, though essentially I'll turn off the EQ, listen, turn it back on to see not only how I'm shaping the sound, yet to keep the volume the same. With EQ, we do want to, of course, make it sound as best we can, though we don't want the volume to change too much, because that'll change how we gain stage later on. And also, as you do it in the EQ, as you can see on the snare, I'm -4. I'm already gain staging, so when we get to that point next, most of the work's already done for us. Though, yeah, essentially you're just taking out the lows and then shaping the sound however I see fit in terms of the sound I'm going for. So this is what we have now. And just shaving off a little bit from the overall drum group. And just boosting the mids a little bit. Nothing too crazy. Usually when we boost, we want to boost wide. And if we're cutting, we want to cut skinny. So additive EQ is wide. Subtractive EQ is tight. So that's me A/B testing again. Just checking here to see how it sounds. And if I like it, I think I added a little bit more like crispness to the drums, so I'm just gonna make some finer adjustments here. A/B testing again. Sounds good to me. I'm going to do some subtractive EQ here and just speed through it a bit. What I'm doing here is just looking for any resonant frequencies. So if you ever hear a mosquito go by your ear, it's very high pitch and annoying. That's kind of what I look for here. If you have high quality samples, you won't find a lot of these, though it's still good to do just in case. Don't increase the peak too much, like all the way to the top where it's 20 decibels, because you're just going to create those frequencies. We don't want to boost too much. We just want to find them and then slightly take them down. You'll notice the dips are only like 1 to 2 decibels. That's perfect. Just helps clean up the way it sits in your ear. So now we're just going to move into compression, just to keep the dynamics and everything of the drums all essentially in the same area, the same decibel range. And we don't want to EQ to the point where we're removing the punch from the drums. So we'll see that here. A little trick, as you just noticed, what I did was I turned down the overall drum group and then I'm compressing from there. I do this because it allows you to hear what the compressor is doing more and just see how the attack and the release is behaving. Definitely try it out and see how you feel. You don't have to do that, though I like to do it because it, to me, lets me see and hear what the compressor is doing more. You'll notice I'm clicking the overall track volume just to see what the volume is at, because again, we want to keep the volume around what we started with. Again, this makes everything better when we adjust any other volumes and such. But yeah, you'll notice I keep clicking there to reset the volume of the track just to see what the average volume is. We don't want to increase too much, and we want to make sure that everything stays tight. Typically around 6 to 7 decibels is what I'm after. You'll notice on the master as well throughout all of this, I'm trying to keep it as close to around 6 as I can, because when we move into the mastering stage for the beat later on, we do want to leave some headroom. So I'm constantly being aware of that. Whether you're going to be doing the mastering yourself or sending it to a mastering engineer, we do want to offer them headroom. So now we're going to be moving on to the drum bus. This is what I like to do next. It just adds a little more crunch, a little more boom, a little more saturation. You can use a saturator as well instead of a drum bus. I just like the way this works and sounds, and you can also manage the output a bit easier with the output section on the drum bus there. And you can also bring through some more of the transients, which is what I did. You'll notice when I do these adjustments, sometimes I'll do a very extreme amount. Like for example, right there I did like 93% on the drive. The reason why is because I want to just see what the max amount is, where it's way too much, and then I dial it back to where it starts sounding good. Again, you'll notice I keep doing this throughout the entire process. Again, we'll see on the boom there, just raised it up to around 40 and then dialed it back. We want to keep doing that because we'll find our sweet spot better. At least that's what I find. So that would be a big tip I would offer. A/B testing again. I'll play it so you can hear what it's like after the compression and the drum bus being added. Again, this is just for crunch and some low end, so warmth to the drums. This is what it sounds like, with and without. So now we're going to get into reverb. I like to do this on a return track. The reason why is you can control it a bit more, and it also doesn't drown out the drums this way. So essentially create a return track, and I send the whole drum group to it, like 100%. You'll see there on the A send in the boom bap drums track. I just cranked it. I like to use forest floor. I think it's a nice sounding EQ. I do adjust it a bit. You can see here I added a high cut and a low cut. We do EQ the reverb afterwards to control more of it. We don't want to introduce too much low end because again, this will muddy up the mix for the entire song. So we just kind of do that with the EQ to prevent some things. But this is what we're listening to right now. I'm going to add the EQ to cut some of that low end, so we don't want to introduce more. Maintain the highs a little bit. See, if we do it too much, it sounds terrible, but a little bit goes a long way. Now you'll notice for the reverb times, I chose very specific decay and pre-delay. This is calculated based on the 16th notes of the song. The way to do this is to essentially divide the BPM by 60,000. I'll send a resource to you guys, or I'll have a resource in the description below that explains that a bit further. And I like to sidechain the reverb to the drum set. That way it's not muddy while the drums are playing, but the reverb cuts back in when the drums essentially stop. So to give some breathing room. This is me adjusting the reverb. So you'll see kind of sped through it there. We're going to move on to parallel compression next, but I just sort of bled the reverb track into the drums. I didn't leave it at 100%. Just slowly soloed it, or unsoloed it, and brought it back into the drums where you can hear the reverb, yet it's not too much. Now what we're doing is getting into parallel compression. I like to use the CLA 76. If you're not using this, you'll notice the attack and the release. The more the knob is turned, the faster it is. It sort of works to the opposite of a typical compressor that way. But for parallel compression, we want to again create a return track, send all of the drums to the return track, and then compress the return track. We're going to do what we did with the reverb and just sort of bleed the return track back into it once we finish compressing. You'll notice the red light there. That means it's clipping. We don't want it to clip. And we want the overall volume of the drums to be the same as it was without the compressor on as when it is on. So you'll see here I'm essentially just absolutely crushing the drums with the compressor here, and it's essentially just to create like a sausage of audio sound, we'll say, just to create like some body underneath the drums, and we'll bleed it back in underneath the drums afterwards. So you see I'm A/B testing a lot and looking at the return track volume just to make sure that the track volume before and after is the same, because we don't want to introduce too much noise, essentially, too much sound, too much volume. We just want this effect of crunching the drums down to create a foundation that sits under the drums we've mixed. Now, this is typically frowned upon. I do like to do it because, again, I don't want to introduce too much bottom end into the overall track, so I do take off a decent amount of the low end on the parallel compression track. So we're just going to bleed it back in to the point where we can just hear it. I am adjusting the reverb because I realized it was a bit too loud, and you'll see there I cranked the volume on the parallel compression track. Again, like I was saying earlier, over exaggerate it and then dial back. Doing some more A/B testing, making sure the volume's all about the same. And I believe this is a good volume for where we're at. Again, you can see the master is sitting around -6 dB, which is perfect for later on when we move into the mastering stage. We have enough headroom to play with it more. Perfect, that sounds good to me. So this is with all the effects off. And this is on. We can hear they punch through a bit more, a little more body to them, and yeah, they just sit nicer overall. So this is the finished with a track. Awesome, thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, let me know what you liked, what you didn't like. Any feedback is appreciated. Hope to see you in the next video.